I'm Damon Scott. I'm the Chief Executive of Dunbartonshire Chamber of Commerce. Right, apparently we're having Zoom's having some technical issues today, and I think that's filtering down through a lot of the technology today. So apologies if we have any issues, but yeah, we're just coming on today with one of our chamber experts who's kindly agreed to speak to us about the sort of hybrid working and return to work. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Teresa Robertson of Endrick Consulting.
Oh, thank you, Damon. It's always a pleasure. So thank you for the invite to be part of today. I'm just going to share my screen with everyone. Okay, can everyone see that all right? Yeah. Okay, good, wonderful. So as I said, thank you very much. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about an introduction to hybrid working, which seems quite a hot topic at the moment. And obviously some pointers, some tips perhaps to be mindful of for yourself if you're a business owner or for your employees coming back into the business world. So I thought I'd start off and just do a very brief introduction about myself. Happy to find out who's with us today as well. So I am the owner of Endrick Consulting, my own business, and it was founded quite a number of years ago. I think I'm about 12 years on the go just now. So what I do as part and part of my business is I support small, medium, large scale businesses with a lot of HR matters. That could even be from the point of view to restructuring, transformation within businesses. I support with a lot of learning and development, from writing strategies to going in and doing training in organizations. Change, which for me personally weaves through both of those that I've just talked about, and that culture piece. Sometimes helping businesses identify their culture or equally improving their culture. I'm also a qualified and accredited coach, so I do a lot of business coaching, career coaching, and well-being coaching. And I think personally for me, all three of those intertwine with a lot of the components that I do within my business. So I know we've got a few folk today. From the point of view, if you're happy to just even introduce yourself, it would be really good for me to know who you are. If you want to keep yourself off camera, because I am very aware we're having Zoom problems today, that is absolutely fine. But if you want to put yourself on camera, that would be fantastic as well. So let's see who we have. In no particular order. I'm going to come to Brona first.
Hi, I'm here. My name's Brona. I am doing like a kickstart at the chamber. So I'm kind of just doing like marketing and admin work. And I just thought this would be an interesting Zoom because I've only been working from home because I started a few months ago.
Brilliant.
So I've really just been working from home.
Great, thank you for that, Brona, much appreciated. Richard?
Hello there. Yeah, my name is Richard Crouch. I'm at the Department for Transport based in London. And yeah, we've just made aware of your this Zoom call today to just to get some ideas and insight on what we could set cascade through the team to improve the back to the office experience.
Okay, thank you, Richard, and hopefully you get some tips to take away today. Alison? You may be speaking, Alison. You're on mute. No? Okay, perhaps having the Zoom problems that we've been experiencing today. If anything changes, Alison, feel free to come in and introduce yourself. It'd be lovely to hear from you. So as I said in my intro there, hybrid working, it is quite a hot topic at the moment. There's lots of articles, there's lots of things doing the world, or even on BBC News and even on the world of LinkedIn. So I think everybody's probably picked up their knowledge of it, running with what they have, what they know. So hopefully if I can put a little bit more context around that today, I absolutely will. So before I even start, I just want to sort of flash back, sadly, to 18 months ago when everything changed. And if I think back to 18 months ago, March/April of last year, I was doing some webinars, I was doing some support for businesses to help them understand what it's like to have employees working at home. Now, that was a massive, massive change for employees and for employers. And over the time, everyone has sort of adapted and adjusted to their way of working. And for whatever reason, if that's been complemented with looking after kids, dogs, people buying dogs has been so popular. Here we are now in this transition phase again of returning back to work, perhaps to an office environment. So what is the resulting of that? It's a lot of change that's happening again. So what I'm briefly going to talk about in the session today is that hybrid working. So I am going to pose a few questions and hopefully we can get a little bit of a discussion going. I'm going to weave a little bit in there on staff well-being, because even from the point of view hybrid working, returning to the workplace, it can and it may impact people from a well-being perspective. So I think even just to share some of that with you today may be helpful. Key thing, employees returning to the office. I'm going to talk a little bit maybe of the different personas that people from wanting to go back to the office to not wanting to go back to the office. Employers, they do have a very pivotal role to play in all of this. So from the point of view, some tips from what employers can do, a little bit on that engagement piece, but fundamentally through everything that I'm going to talk about in this session, stressing the importance of communication. So that's fundamentally setting the scene for today and what I'm going to cover. So first and foremost, I'm going to pose a question. So feel free to come off mute, share your answer, or if you prefer, use your chat function and you can type in your answer. Happy to be led by you in this. So open question. What at the moment is your understanding? What is hybrid working?
Well, it's a mixture of being in the office and working from home to whatever degree.
Okay,
You
brilliant.
do one or the other.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Richard. So if that is hybrid working, what's flexible working?
Interesting question. Yes.
Okay.
Not
And
sure.
it's not a trick question by any manner of means, but I'm just going to maybe sort of not necessarily explain both of them in great detail, but there can be a little bit of a differentiation between them. Okay. Which leads me to, is there a difference? And the answer is there can be or there cannot be. All right. So my next slide, and I want to just go into that, is from the point of view hybrid working. This is a statement from the ACAS website. You'll see there that it says hybrid working is a type of flexible working where an employee splits their time between the workplace and working remotely, i.e. working at home. That is the definition that ACAS have on their website. So what does that mean? It means, as Richard rightly said there, that an employee could be, if they're working 5 days a week, it could be that they're splitting their time 2 days at home, 3 days in the office, or vice versa. It could even mean from the point of view that someone's in the office even 5 mornings a week and 5 afternoons at home. So that is that sort of blended dual approach of work in the hybrid world. It's like taking each employee's Monday to Friday, Monday to Thursday, whatever they work, and trying to find out, okay, what's good for the business and what's good for our employees working at home, and trying to come to that happy agreement. So when thinking of hybrid working, what I would always say to employers is have a think about it. Some employers I'm working with are like, no, it's never going to work in the business. I would always say, trial it. Always trial it and do not instantly dismiss it. If you instantly dismiss it from an employee perspective, I personally find you're going to end up demotivating your employees. Another tip I would be saying, and I know a lot of employers are doing this at the moment, is survey. Go out to your staff, ask your staff, what do they see their return looking like? I can appreciate that there may be some complexities in businesses and from working out what that looks like. So going back to what I said at the start, communication. when you start to communicate with your employees and ask them their thoughts and their opinions, what you're doing is actually you're consulting with them rather than telling them. I know there's been a few employers, I've heard some horror stories where they've just told everyone you're coming back 9 to 5, that's it, no questions, end of. It's kind of not really worked in their favor quite well. So from the point of view, going out a good old SurveyMonkey, a poll using something like your Outlook, Slack, whatever channel you might have in the business, asking people to put forward their thoughts will make a massive difference. When you know what that looks like, so for example, again, what Richard said, it could be 2 days in the office and 3 days at home. There could be that point of just being flexible. There's an element of, it could be Monday and Wednesday, you're in the office because those are the 2 busiest days that we have. That's to maybe support clients. That's where other people are going to be in the business so we can all get together. So there's twofold to this. Business, what requirements do they need? And I'm using the word need, people to be in the office for. So then if someone says, I want to be at home 2 days a week, you can say, okay, so the other 3 days in the office, these are perhaps 2 days that we would like you to be in the business for you and for us. So flexibility can play a big part in that for you as an employer and also for employees. Another little tip in there for a recommendation, I'd always say with hybrid working, if you're trialing it, you can trial it for a period of time to see if it works. So that could be having a little bit of a phased approach, rotational, a timetabled return. So that if you've got 10 people in a team and all of a sudden everybody wants to come in on the same days, may not be possible. So you may have to timetable it a little bit differently. Okay, so if you do Monday, Tuesday 1 week, these 2 do Monday, Tuesday the next week, whatever that looks like. You have the opportunity of listening to your employees, trying to support them wherever possible, but also be mindful of the operational and the business needs from a business perspective. That is hybrid working. It's more or less trying to work out what works well for both to get that happy marriage, as I like to call it. There's a couple of people who've just come in. Has anyone any questions or any thoughts on that? No? Okay. That's absolutely fine. By all means, please ask questions throughout. Should have said that at the start. If not, I've got a question slide at the end. So if there's any questions, feel free to hold on to them as well. Okay, great. So hybrid working, flexible working. So flexible working, I've probably been used to flexible working for a number of years. Some of you may be as well. I'd always say flexible working is not having the commitment perhaps to go into the office. It could be that you're contracted or your employees are contracted 9 to 5, but flexibility could be from the point of view, oh, on a Monday, I want to start at 7:30. I want to finish at 3 o'clock on a particular day. There is one day I do want to come into the office. So what you're doing is being flexible. I think it's been going about for quite some time. Some organizations and companies have been championing it for quite a number of years. Some people, it might be very new. So there's hybrid working and there's flexible working. If you ask me my honest opinion, they're kind of the same thing, but there's 2 different terminologies going about there. Okay. So as I said at the start, rewind 18 months, there was a lot of change and you may have gone through some things yourself. Change is happening again. Kind of doesn't sit still at the moment in the world that we live in. So I always bring this slide in, and I think it's so important to just sort of reinforce what change can look like. So if you're an employer, you've probably gone through a lot of change yourself in a business. If you've got staff and employees, I can guarantee you they'll have gone through a lot of change as well. So here we are 18 months later as a result of the pandemic. So if you think about that going back into the workplace, you're going to have some employees who are absolutely over the moon and they cannot wait to get back into the office environment. You're going to have some employees who are absolutely going to be filled with fear and anxiety in going back to the office. You might get some who are about, I'm okay with it, I'll see how it goes. So you're going to get a lot perhaps of different emotions. It can have an impact on people's well-being. So I would always say be mindful of that. Going back to what I said about consulting staff, engaging, communicating with staff will make a massive difference as opposed to just telling them. So think of now, if you've got team, you've got a wide business, you maybe know some of the personalities of the folk that you work alongside, you might have a couple of folk in some of these areas. Those who are jumping at the start, jumping at the bit to come back, they're going to be in moving forward. Oh, let me start, can't wait. Those who are filled with anxiety, perhaps fear, they're at the very far left-hand side of what we call the emotional change curve. And it's very much about coping for them because it's new change. We can all react to things very, very differently. So I think sometimes being mindful of this change curve can help perhaps you as an employer or as a colleague of an employee, get them back into the work environment. Okay. So with that in mind, from an employee's returning to the office, these are just some top tips more than anything else. Leading in from my last slide of the emotional change curve, it is change. And it can be absolutely humongous change for some employees. So it's very, very important to support them whenever they need that or where they need it. If they do have fears and anxieties, kind of important to try and eliminate those fears and anxieties, because from the point of view, you may get someone who is very not wanting to come back into the office. How do you try and support them to do that? Understanding what their fears are, is the transport, understanding what the office environment is like. So posing some questions to try and eliminate those fears is a great way to start. Key thing, and I'd always recommend this to any employer first and foremost, but from an employee perspective, they want to know that when they go back to work, it is somewhere safe for them to go back to. Let's face it, COVID has not gone away. It's not likely to go away for some time. So having that safe environment for them to go back to in the work environment is really important for them. It should ideally be something for them to look forward to. So even if you've had to take them through the eliminating of any fears or anxieties, it should be absolutely something for them to look forward to. I know a lot of people are fed up with Teams and Zoom and all the channels that we've been using. To actually see people in the flesh can make a massive, massive difference. So whatever that journey is for the employee to get there, make sure they look forward to it. Now, you might think when I say ask for feedback or suggestions, no way. It's proven really popular, quite successful, particularly if staff members, and one client that I'm working with, they've started to post up on a Slack channel about their journey in the sense of, oh, I might have been really, really scared at the start, but you know what now? I'm feeling really good about this. And I'm feeling good about this because of A, B, and C. That feedback has proven really, really successful and really, really important for the employer and other colleagues. So what it has opened up is a little bit of sharing best practice. What can we do better? How can we support our employees? Share those updates, share successes, share whatever it might be in support of returning employees to the work environment. Because when you do that, you're communicating. You're communicating out to everyone and saying, okay, appreciate it may not have been an easy journey, but we're so proud. Here's what we've done. Here's what we're doing well. Even echo that your feedback is important. Remember, change is not standing still at the moment. Give thanks, give praise, and give recognition. And thanks even from the point of view, okay, I know you don't want to get on a bus to come into work at the moment, but you've done it now for 3 times. Wow, so proud. Thank you so much for doing that. Giving praise, giving recognition, because by doing some of these things, you're instilling confidence. You're making your employees feel proud, and you're making your employees feel really, really supported, which absolutely will boost morale, boost empowerment, and actually boost your company's reputation. So from an employer perspective, sort of taking everything that I've said there, I'm a great believer of you want to try and get it right. We always hear of some of these horror stories where employers do not get it right. So these again are a little bit more top tips for you to think about. First one links into very much what I've just said about planning a safe return for staff to the workplace. When employees, staff members feel safe, supported, it's a big win-win. There's that consult as opposed to tell. When you take people on a journey and you start saying, we're going to start here, this is our timescales, how it's going to work, consulting them, keeping them involved, engaged and communicated will make a massive difference. When you start to tell them, that's where the negatives could happen. There's that communication as well. Have regular discussions. And I would be saying right across the business. So if you have leadership, marketing, who perhaps send out the comms, wonderful. I'd also say translate that, bring that down a couple of levels as well. It could be team manager with employees. It could be head of department with team managers and employees team, whatever that looks like. When you have that joined up approach in the communication, that's when the amazingness can happen. Leads into the communication part of it as well. Discuss your plans. There is nothing worse when employees and staff have no clue what is happening, because guess what happens? They go and create their own narrative. That narrative may not be correct, and all of a sudden one person tells another and another and another. So discuss your plans, be very open, transparent, get feedback, all the things that I've said, because you can say, okay, by the 1st of November, we want as many people back in the workplace as possible. We're going to go out to you, get your thoughts on that, perhaps look at hybrid working, see what you want to do by way of coming back into the office. That discussion can eliminate a lot of fears and anxieties instantly. This one you might think, don't really need to worry about employees coming back into the workplace from a travel perspective. Some feedback in forums that I'm a member of, I've seen a lot of discussion on this, particularly if you have staff members coming by way of public transport. Some employees kind of don't want to get back on a train or a bus again because they feel, oh, I'm going to be with other people. All I'm saying is be very, very mindful of that. Because if they've got fears and anxieties around that, you want to try and support them as best as possible. I know of one organisation, because if you think of that peak commute time to and from work in the morning, it's usually up till about 9 o'clock at least, maybe even 9:30. They've changed a few employees' hours so they are not coming on trains and they're not coming on buses in peak times, which means less people on it, and they feel so much better about it. Allow time for change and readjustment. Now, as much as returning to the workplace, productivity, everything is important. But if you've got someone with anxieties and fears, it is going to take them a little bit of time to probably be at their top performing level. So allow time for change and that readjustment back into the workplace. Remember, think back 18 months ago, you probably had to allow time for the change in the opposite world. So it's just be mindful of that as well. Provide reassurance to staff. So as much as you communicate, get feedback successes, provide reassurance. So if they have not been in the office for 18 months and they're coming back perhaps for the very first time, some of the things I would be saying is make sure that the health, safety and cleanliness is absolutely kept to the best level as possible. Make sure the staff know that as well. Make adjustments, and it could be like spacing out desks, putting dividers, whatever that might look like. And one of my key top tips would be walk around and take a video. It could be an iPhone, could be a smartphone. And I've seen 1 or 2 businesses where I made that recommendation. They initially laughed at me, and they went round with their phones, took a video, sent it to all their staff. And actually the feedback they got from that was so powerful and really, really positive. Lots of people asked questions and started going, oh, so is that what that looks like? Oh, it doesn't even look the same. Some people have forgotten what the office looks like. So you want to try and reintroduce that back into the world for them. And finally, so if you've shared a video, you might want to think about, okay, let's have a wee coffee morning or a wee afternoon. I have no doubt we're fed up with our virtual coffees. So if you start to maybe take X amount of people, 10 people, 20 people, whatever that looks like of your staff back in, have a little coffee morning, a bit more relaxed, can give people that, okay, I've seen the video, this is what it looks like in real life. And you can start to feel sometimes that pressure actually just lifting off people's shoulders. So my last slide, I think there's one word there, communicate. And I cannot emphasize enough the importance and the power of communication. If you take all the things that I've just given by way of top tips and perhaps ways to approach things, communication. I'm a great believer in these times that we're living in. Communicate as much as possible. It will make a massive difference. So from the top down in an organization, from the bottom up, if that may be appropriate, equally from the point of view, touch points, one-to-ones, emails, Teams, Zoom, Slack, whatever channel you want to do to keep that sort of instant. They've worked superbly well in the last 18 months, but never forget that human engagement, and human engagement coming through in emails, one-to-one, the good old fashioned, sometimes as we call them, like town hall get-togethers. It can make an absolute big difference because it gives employees the opportunity to hear, listen to everything, perhaps go away and reflect, ask questions, that consulting element. And I think for me, that is a bit of a winning recipe to help people coming back into the work environment. So that's pretty much everything today. My final slide is really any questions. So please, by all means, if I can answer or share or guide in any way, now's your chance.
Thanks, Teresa. I wonder if I could jump in, because obviously this is just, it's a lunch and learn, so it's very much the beginning of a process. This is what these are designed for, to get our business community thinking about the important issues. Yeah, you've touched on a load of really valuable kind of areas there. So I guess for people to get an idea of, I think, sort of in summary there, the communication and the approach to it and everything's fantastic. What can people expect in terms of what goes behind that as well? I guess in terms of policies, contracts, risk assessments, these sort of things. What would they be? And I guess you then need to communicate them effectively as well, sort of thing. So once you start that journey, what sort of areas would you be expecting to cover?
I think personally for me, I think it would probably depend on the environment, the organization, of what needs to be done. But yes, it could lead to risk assessments in the sense of if there's been a lot of change in the work environment. So from the point of view, it becomes part and part of maybe helping and supporting people back into the business. I've seen some organizations starting to introduce health and safety questionnaires. And I've seen organizations just, from a desk setup. Last year, I've seen people using ironing boards as desks. Some organizations have put in lots of equipment now to support people that they're set up really, really well at home. So when they've come back into the work environment perhaps is not set up as well as they are working at home. So there's a lot of adjustments being made in that. So again, you've got your desk assessment that can help people from the point of view, does their desk need to increase a bit? Do they need risers and things like that for their screen? So I think it depends probably on the organization, the setup, trying to make people feel comfortable, but equally employers are protecting themselves. Because if they can put all of these things into place that are relevant wherever needed, then absolutely it cascades that message. We're here. We want to give you that safe space. We want you to feel safe at work. For contracts of employment, I haven't personally seen much change in contracts of employment at the moment, because a lot of businesses want to have that hybrid flexibility. There is obviously another component called a flexible working request, where people have the opportunity of putting that in once a year. And there are some sort of requirements around that. I've heard recently, and you may have heard yourself as well, that I think it was the UK government have said something like, we want to make that available for everyone going forward from the day they start, not having to wait 6 months. So flexible working requests usually for me would be a reduction in hours. So on that basis, yes, a contract of employment would probably need to be changed to support that.
Great. No, that's really, really interesting, and thanks for touching on the obviously particularly the safety side and giving people that reassurance against sort of anxieties and what have you. Because even in our small office, it's you know, people know that they've got, you know, access to all those sort of the usual things around COVID in terms of sanitizer and how you behave outside of the office and around your colleagues, sort of thing. So that's really useful to know that. So
Okay.
yes, I'll pass on to someone else. If anyone else, just sort of turn your screen on or put your hand up, but either virtually or on your screen. Anyone else?
No.
Don't think so. Just jump in if there is, but no, you must have covered it so comprehensively, Teresa. That
Or I've talked them into quietness, David, one or the other.
you're scared them off. No, it's fantastic. No, that was really a good introduction. Thank you very much, and I think lots of food for thought for employers and employees there about how they sort of operate going forward. And obviously that's going to be something that becomes far more common, and, you know, like I said, it'll maybe be built into contracts in the future. It'll become a more normal part of our operation as businesses. So very good to highlight it at this point. And I guess I'd just like to emphasize, you know, the sort of that communication and consultation side of things. And I guess, you know, leading on from that, the kind of reviews as well, because it's new to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So no, that's great. So no, thank you so much for presenting, Teresa. That was fantastic. Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you got as much out of this as I did. And yeah, keep an eye out for our other lunch and learns. Yeah, thanks for coming. At this point, I'd like to wish you a good rest of your lunch break.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody.